Hello, my mimics, and welcome back to the Mimic Commentary, episode Who Cares? This is probably a Theta episode, I would call it, because we're using our time traveler today. So expect this one to not give us much lore insight into the Mimic Commentary moving forward. This is kind of going to be a sort of meta-analysis as I work out some thoughts. Last episode, we had to do a cleanup, but before that, we picked up an Arteria leaf here. We picked up a nascent butterflies over there. There is a rune arc right here. And there is a Miquella's lily right there. And then we're going to finish the episode with the greatsword. So I kind of want to talk about how I think these items symbolize the characters that they do and what they mean, especially what they mean for me. Because the video I'm working on right now is the prophecy video, and the prophecy video should have a lot of mimic stuff on it. I'm also working on the mimic video, but that is something else. Okay. So we get our red Arteria leaf. And again, this is an outside. We're outside of time on this one. We look at our Arteria leaves. A faint pulse can be felt in the veins, stirs the blood, providing an enlivening effect. Originally, I didn't think there was much to do about the Arteria leaves. You know, they're very rare, but I didn't think about what they could mean until in the Discord, metaphoric, or I think they just might go by metaphor, said, oh, I think they represent Radagon. And I have some theorizing from before the DLC where I was saying that Radagon, in a past life, was a dragon. His name is literally an anagram for a dragon. And we'll see this theorizing later in the Mimic Commentary when we get to the relevant areas. But in Shadow of the Erd Tree, hopefully I have the items. I hope I do. Yes, okay, I do have it. We have the Arteria leaf. This is used to craft exalted flesh, okay? Exalted flesh is kind of a mimic of something from... I can't craft it right now. I don't have everything we need. Is kind of a mimic of Dragon Communion flesh. It looks the same, and it's made by the Dragon Communion Warriors. And Dragon Communion flesh is an imitation of Dragon Scale flesh. And we have Dragon Scale flesh right here. So we're seeing some mimicry coming down the lines. We have scales from a dragon. That's being imitated as Dragon Communion flesh, and then it passes down into exalted flesh. So we get some little imitation. We'll get a little bit of mimicry there. We look at our Arteria leaves. A faint pulse can be felt in the veins, stirs the blood, providing a lining effect. That's what you need to craft the exalted flesh. Well, how do you create Dragon Communion flesh? Well, you need Dragon's Calor Bloom. It looks just like Arteria leaves, except it's a single flower. It's a flower with an uncanny shape, coursing with hot blood. So this is stark red leaves, thick with swollen veins, so there's blood in it. A faint pulse can be stirs of blood. Yada, yada, we get it. But this is coursing with hot blood, and it's a single flower that is said to blossom only once from the hearts of dead warriors who oft partook of the Dragon Communion. When we talk to Yura, I think he calls them dragon-hearted. Or actually, no, it might be one of her spells that talk about Dragon Communion as being dragon-hearted. This is where the mimic... I'm showing you an insight into what the Mimic Commentary is going to look like once we start getting all these items. I tell you what. We're barely even cooking. I think it is... Which communion spell is it? Communion. Dragon Communion are called the Dragon-hearted. So we already knew that in the base game. Oh, no, we didn't. We don't have these ones yet. So they're called the Dragon-hearted. So someone with a dragon heart would have to be a dragon. Since this is tied to imitation, Radagon has the red hair. We find these Arteria leaves that they drop from the trolls in the mountaintops, so the trolls are tied to them. Radagon has red hair, so he's most likely a descendant of the giants. We're seeing a lot of stuff of Radagon is tied to trolls. He's tied to giants. He's tied to wolves. I don't know if I mentioned that. He's tied to dragons. He's tied to all these beasts. But he's a man. He's a king. He's a father. He's a warrior. He's a scholar. He's all of these things. Radagon has connections to all of these things. And yet, if we take a look at his icon, he doesn't feel complete. He aspires to be complete. When we get to doing more of the theorizing about Radagon being a mimic, you know, his law of regression reveals mimicry in all its forms, and we learn that Radagon is Marika. The idea of Radagon being a mimic, yet he is all of these things. He's associated with trolls and giants and fire and magic and sorceries and dragons. He's a father. He's a commander, but he kind of fails in all these things. He's all of these things, yet he's none of them. He fights in Liurnia twice, and he loses. He has to apologize to Rennala in order to marry her. He has to go through her rituals and marry into her family, and then he is elevated to king. So he fails in 2 wars, and then he fails upwards, essentially. He learns these truths about the world, and then Night of the Black Knives happen, and his daughter dies. So now he has a dead child. So he failed as a military commander. Then he failed as a father. He couldn't protect his child. Then he fails as a husband because he has to leave his wife and go marry Marika, become the Elden Lord. The whole world is falling apart while he's the Elden Lord. And then his wife, who happens to also be him, shatters the Elden Ring and causes the world to collapse. So he even fails as the Elden Lord. He can't put the world back together. This is where this feeling of inadequacy and incompleteness comes with Radagon. You know, he is all of these things, yet he's none of them. He is an imitation of them all. It's like it evokes these feelings of pretending to be something you're not, pretending to be, you know, who you want to be, but failing. It makes me think personally of my own father, who, when I was growing up, my father, to me, he, I thought he was so funny. I thought he was awesome. I thought he was the best. I thought he was a really cool, tough guy. He taught me that, you should always stick up for people. You know, if someone's in trouble or if someone's getting bullied, you should stand up for them. You should do what is right. And as I've grown up, I've recognized a lot of my father's failings. That these aspirations that he put forward, he was an imitation of those. I think he, maybe I won't say. To protect his privacy, I won't say. But in regards, I think he's an imitation of those things. The things that he told me to be, he wasn't. I thought he was, but as growing up and realizing what my childhood actually looked like, I don't, and how he currently acts, I don't think he was. But I saw him I saw the show he put on. I saw the mimicry, and I believed it. It was real to me, and it shaped me to be who I am today. So I'll give you an example. I don't know if I've told this story before on the internet, but last year, when Kristen used to work night shift as a nurse, I had my windows open during the summer, and I was just reading a book. And then I heard outside screaming, like screaming bloody murder. I heard a woman screaming for her life. And there was this mysterious car parked in front of my apartment. So I immediately, I was wearing like shorts, so I immediately put on like jeans and like a black hoodie to look a little bit more intimidating. And I start banging on the window of the car. And I go, what the hell's going on in there? And this guy gets off of his girlfriend, for she was laying down in the passenger seat. And he gets out of the passenger door, and she's like sobbing. And he's like, this is my girl. What do you want? You want me to beat your ass? Like, he starts threatening me. And it was really scary. And I put my hands up like, nah, man, I don't want any trouble. I just want to make sure she's okay. I just want to make sure everyone's all right. And I ask her, like, miss, is everything all right? and she's just sobbing, and he's like, stand back, he's like, you want me to beat your ass, back away. And I was like, no, I don't want any trouble. But I was stalling them. My neighbors were out there too, and one of them did call the police department. They left the parking lot, and they tried to drive down the street, and you could hear them yelling through the car, and they kept pulling over like every few feet because they were fighting. Fortunately, the police did pull them over, but in those situations, if it's domestic abuse, the victim is most likely not safe, even after that point. But in that moment, I was putting myself in jeopardy and danger, because to me, I thought that's what I should do. That's what's right. Also that summer, I had the windows open, and I heard a woman, a young girl, yell, "Stop following me. Go away." It was like midnight. And I immediately jump in my car, and I drive, and I see this teenage girl with someone following her, like a teenager. And I pull over, and I say, "Miss, is everything okay? Is everything all right?" And she's like, "Yes, we're fine." And I greet her. I was like, "Are you sure everything is okay? You don't need any help?" And they said yes. She said yes. The guy didn't talk. And then immediately I called the police department, and I said where this was happening. I don't know if the police resolved this issue. I don't know if calling the police was the right decision, but I just couldn't, if someone was not safe. There was a fire in my apartment complex, and Kristen was worried that I was going to actually go into the apartments instead of, because I ran and I started banging on all the doors, telling the neighbors that there was a fire. We saw one guy jump out of his window, and yeah, it's one of the reasons why I do jujitsu, is because I want to be able to physically have the capability to defend myself, and have that type of strength. But one of the reasons I did that is because I go through those things is because that's what my dad taught me to do, and be that type of person. But knowing more about my dad, I don't really think he was that type of person. I don't think that's who he is. But he played this imitation, and he passed that to me. I think I'm a better person based on the mimicry of my own father. And that's kind of how I think about Radagon. When I think about Radagon as a character, I think about him as the man who can't amount to what he wants to be, but he tries his best. Sorry, this is why it's a Theta episode. Okay, now we go to the rune arc. Oh boy. Okay. So, yeah, nice. What do the messages say here? Down ahead. Down ahead. So this is actually a pretty good hidden. This is a hidden one. This one's pretty hidden. Now I was talking about how Infa's videos convinced me that these are most likely shaman. Do I have the blossom back from the... No, I don't have the full bloom one. Actually, very interesting. This has been shown in the Discord a lot. The front of the Guardian's robes, they have a sun in the middle, a sun with a face. Very evocative of Dark Souls and other stuff we'll see, like Dung Eater's armor, who we haven't met yet in the regular Mimic commentary. Where is his armor? That has the sun medallion. And let's put our dry leaf back on. And you know what? We can wear the Dung Eater stuff. And also the other sun stuff is Gold Mask. This is he's sunned out of his mind. The idea, so they make there's an ancient accord with the Erd tree. And I think that these are most likely, actually I don't want to wear the Gold Mask one. I like wearing our Circle of Light. These are most likely the shamans from the shaman village. They are most likely, and we'll do that theorizing. Let's get there. We're cheating a little bit. We're having a little bit of fun. These jars, most likely taken from Hornsent territory in an alliance with the Hornsent to feed them to the minor Erd trees so they could be reborn as guardians for eternity. So this is how she can save her people, save some of the shaman folk as guardians of the minor Erd trees. And we can tie this to Marika because of a rune arc. We only have 2 rune arcs on this character right now. But when we use our rune arc, we make the position, the pose of that Marika is in that crucifixion. Now, Radagon is Marika. That's one of the big reveals that we're going to get. Radagon is Marika. So everything that Radagon does is based off of Marika. Marika is long-lived, seldom born. She's the eternal queen. She's a Newman. She comes from another world. She wants to kill the Elden Beast. And she does everything she can to make that happen. Let's, I don't like looking at the Dung Eater stuff anymore. Let's put that armor back on. Where is the dry leaf armor? There we go. She does everything she can to make that happen. As the holder of the Elden Ring, the controller of order, she essentially sets up a causal chain of events. By removing destined death from the Elden Ring, she creates the Golden Order, and the Golden Order is causality and regression. So everything that happens after that point, after the removal of destined death, is because of Marika. As we'll see in the future, being able to understand the Golden Order is the Golden Order events. We've talked about this already in the Mimic commentary, but it gives us the idea that everything that happens in Elden Ring is purposeful. Everything is here for a reason. Everything is set in the perfect order of events so that things will happen the way they do, so that your character can fulfill these prophecies and slay a god. That god being the Elden Beast. The Elden Beast is the Elden Ring, and the Elden Ring is made out of runes. And grace comes from the Erd Tree, and grace is made out of runes. So we have this big elaborate plot where Marika takes control of this subcosmic, deific being that can control reality, turns it into a golden tree, uses that golden tree to take its power and give it to other people. Then she has them defeat all of her enemies. Then she takes that power back. Then she gives that power to her children. Then her children go to war. And then you come along and you clean the mess up. Along the way, Radagon is setting up the pieces. All of Radagon's children are part of this war. And they're all part of this war because that's what she wants. Most of her children, the reason why they do all of these things is because of like a neglect from their parents. The Carian kids are the least neglected, but you think about the Omen twins. Well, they are cursed. They're cursed as omens because of what Marika's son Mesmer did. Mesmer does what he does because he's searching for the approval of his mother. Miquella and Melania are born with rot because they're born from Radagon and Marika. So the actions that Marika does not only hurt the world, but they irrevocably hurt her children, and that hurt causes the events for the story to unfold. We think of one particularly of Moog. Moog has to go for the formless mother. He falls in line with the formless mother. His mother is absent. So he searched for salvation in the formless mother, and because that mother wasn't there, he does something very atrocious to a child, and that kicks off so many other events. It makes me think, when I think of Marika, I think of my own mother as well. I think, she loves in her own particular way, but she's said things that have really hurt my feelings. She's done things that have really hurt my feelings. Sometimes I've felt invisible or abandoned by my mother. Sometimes I call myself an orphan. One thing is that my parents both moved very far away and then they got divorced. But even before then, just how they've acted as a child and also not noticing the pain that I was going through, it made me really feel neglected. But I know that even though my mom acts a certain way and she says certain things, and, I know that she does love me. But she is her own traumatized person as well. She has faced her own traumas. Her father was an alcoholic who was physically abusive to her brothers. She has had run-ins with sexual predators. Now, I don't think she was never violated physically, but she has had situations where I won't go into detail, but you get the idea. She is a traumatized person. And she was unable to heal. She was unable to cope properly. And in doing so, I was raised in an environment that I don't think was really well suited to raise a child. but I don't think, but I know that she does, love me. But sometimes it does. I don't always feel that love. And that it's very hurtful to kind of like from both of my parents to not feel like I have their love. Even though I know that they do love me, that it just doesn't, I just don't feel it. I just don't feel it. I love Radagon as a character because he is someone that I relate to and aspire to be, and I love Marika as a character because I see her as someone who everything she does for her children, and she does for the future. Even though her children get hurt by what she has to do, she just has to do it. She has to. If she doesn't do it, everyone will continue to hurt. Like, everything she does is to end this cycle of abuse. And the way that she ends the cycle of abuse is to be the last abuser, essentially. She has to be the last abuser, which is really tragic. And that leads us to Miquella, guarded by the shamans around here. Part of the theorizing that we're going to be going to is that how most people believe in a prophesized Miquella, this eternal child who will heal the world, who will ascend to godhood and make things right. But that doesn't happen in the lands between, and it kind of like goes out further. Miquella is a character I care about because everything that he does as a time traveler, as we've seen in my time travel videos, is done through causality, but his own version of causality, his own version of a butterfly effect, that every event that happens in the story happens so he will become a god, and he's the one who kicks off that chain of events. And this is what makes me think about the nascent butterflies and the butterfly effect, because then it makes me start thinking about my own life. How did every moment of my life lead to this moment right now? What was the butterfly effect that led to this? Me talking into a microphone, recording my thoughts and feelings, and sharing it with the internet. As we've been doing our theorizing, we're tying the Trina lilies and the nascent butterflies to Ronnie. And in my Trina lily video, the end thing was saying, well, Ronnie is mimicking Miquella. Ronnie is the doll. She's trying to be a child forever. She is satisfying the role of Miquella without actually really being a child. She's not real. She's just a plaything. However, just because she isn't real doesn't mean she doesn't have a real impact on the world. And that's where we come to the greatsword. A coarse iron lump of an ultra greatsword mows down foes by utilizing its incredible weight, though handling it likely requires the wielder to have surpassed the realm of merely human. It is precisely for this reason this weapon is used to slaughter even inhuman foes. Now, this is obviously a reference to the Dragon Slayer that Guts uses in Berserk. Look at that thing. It's massive. Let's actually, let's play the part. We're going to be... I don't think we have the stats. But we play the part. If it wasn't for... Dark Souls. When I started playing Dark Souls, I was in high school. It came to PC. And I fell in love with Dark Souls. I was obsessed with it. I kept playing it over and over and over again. I was theorizing about it. I was just absolutely obsessed with Dark Souls. After playing Dark Souls, I played Demon Souls. Then Dark Souls 2 came out, and I absolutely hated it. By that time, I was in college, and I was having an incredibly depressive episode. Then Dark Souls 3 came out. I was still in college, but I transferred to a new school. I was doing much better. I had a job at the school working IT. They liked what I was doing so much. So I started as a student IT, at the university I was at, but I was making PowerShell scripts to automate the work, and the actual IT department really loved the work that I was doing. So they hired me as a student to work at their headquarters, and I was making tools for the student IT department to automate their work. So I made a flash drive tool that had all of the different things that the school needed to do. They just they made a dozen of them. They gave them to the heads of the student IT department, and then if they needed to do something, they plugged it into the computers, and then it did the job for them. You had a menu with pictures and all that stuff. So I was doing pretty well. And that's when Dark Souls 3 came out, and I played it a few times. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't really do crazy theorizing on it. Same thing with Bloodborne. Played it a few times. I loved it. Didn't really do much theorizing on it. Sekiro again. But then, Elden Ring comes out, and during college, actually during that time when I was working at that IT job, that's when I started watching Game of Thrones, because the people I was working with, they're like, oh, did you watch Game of Thrones? I was like, oh, no, I haven't watched it. And they're like, oh, Jack, you would love it. So I started watching Game of Thrones. I binged it. And then I was like, wow, this is amazing. I got to read the book. So I start reading all these books, and I fall in love with George R. R. Martin, and I fall into the Song of Ice and Fire theorizing. Fast forward, Elden Ring's announced. Oh, this is awesome. George R. R. Martin and Hidetaka Miyazaki. It's going to be great. It came out the same, I think the announcement trailer was the same year Game of Thrones ended. So it was a little kind of sour seeing that Game of Thrones ended in a way that I thought was very poor. So I wasn't I wasn't part of the hype train for Elden Ring. When Elden Ring came out, I was in the middle of my master's degree. So I took time. I stopped doing my master's degree to play Elden Ring. And then, I beat the game. And then a year later, I was like, I want to play it again, but I want to give it more time, because last time I didn't have time. And that's when everything started to click into place. I'm playing Elden Ring, and then my friend says, oh, if you really like Elden Ring, you got to read Berserk. This is what inspired Elden Ring and Dark Souls and all that. You got to read Berserk. So I get the first volume of Berserk, and I don't like it. I don't like the main character. I think he's nasty. I think he's mean. I don't like characters like that. So I stopped reading it. But then I was like, let me give it a try again. Let me try it again. And then the point where I stopped, I go in another few pages, and then he's crying. And I'm like, oh, this is a complex character. And then I keep reading, and I fall in love with Berserk. I love the Black Swordsman. I love Guts. I love everything that he's going through. And then I recover these memories. And there's similar memories to what happened to Guts, the Black Swordsman. When Guts was a child, he was born of a corpse. His mother was hung in a war from a tree, and he's this infant, and he falls from this corpse, and he's found by this mercenary gang, and he's raised by a prostitute. And the prostitute is like a concubine for the head mercenary, and the mercenary is a violent, ruthless man. When the prostitute dies, when Guts's foster mother dies, the Gambino, the mercenary, takes him as a kind of a protege, but he's emotionally and physically abusive to him. It's a mercenary company, so you have to be a mercenary. So he starts fighting with a sword that's too large for him. There's no children's sword, so he has to use adult swords, And he gets good at it. He's this child warrior. He starts making money for the mercenary gang. He even, I think, helps Gambino at one point. And then after one moment, when Guts is 8 years old, Gambino sells him to another mercenary for sex. And that is what leads Guts to kill Gambino, kill the guy who raped him, and kicks off this story. Now, the sword that he uses, this happens after the Golden Age arc. It happens, there's so much into Berserk. But this sword, to me, it's always said that it's always described it was more than a sword. It is a coarse lump of iron. too large to be called a sword. Like, it's inhuman. Like, he should not be able to hold a sword this big, and yet he does. And he does it to fight these monsters that are born from the worst of humanity. In Berserk, there is this sect in the astral plane called the God Hand, and when someone is at their most desperate, and if they have a helot, they can call upon the God Hand, and if they sacrifice their ability to cry, if they sacrifice something they love, they can turn into an apostle where they'll have inhuman strength, and they can just indulge in their worst desires, the worst sexual fantasies, gluttony, cannibalism, all that stuff. And no human should be able to match them. But Guts can. This sword is called the Dragon Slayer for a reason. Because men should not be able to kill dragons. There's a lot of Nietzschean stuff in there. There's just so much magic in the sword. Not just not literally, but just as what it represents. It is this physical burden for him to carry. It is too heavy. Swinging it hurts his body. Yet he can do these acrobatic feats. And it's spectacular what he can do with it. It's also dangerous. He unlike these monsters he's still a man, but he can turn into a monster. In the later chapters, it's actually specifically in the most recent chapters, we kind of learned that. So he has this thing inside of him. It's called the Beast of Darkness. It's this like wolf presence, and it's this power that wants him to become a monster, become this animal, and he tries to fight it, but sometimes it comes out, and he does bad things when it does. Sometimes it comes out and it allows him to fight this great foe that he needs to fight. But in the most recent chapter, we learned specifically that the Beast of Darkness kind of is like living. Most recent paperback, English, volume 42. It's like living in this sword. And when I first read volume 42, it really broke me because his sword didn't work. And then you find the monster coming out of it. And it made me so upset. And it made me so upset is because I have the sword tattooed on my arm. A lot of people who get Berserk tattoos, a lot of them get the brand of sacrifice. This is when someone is set up for sacrifice so someone can become an apostle or become part of the God Hand. They get branded with this spiral on their body so that other monsters can eat them. Guts has that brand on him, and because of it, he is assailed by ghosts and demons and things of that nature. But he refuses to let it take him down. I didn't want to get the brand of sacrifice because to me that represented, well, I've been branded as a sacrifice, and now I have to keep fighting these ghosts. I don't want that on my body. Instead, I wanted the sword on my body. There's a scene where Guts talks about like the sword is like a part of me. It's more a part of me than anything. And I was like, I want that on my body because of what this sword represents. He uses it not just to fight monsters, but it's also a shield. And that's true in Elden Ring. This sword can be used as a shield. If we look at its stats, it has a physical guard negation of 84. So if you block with the greatsword, you're only taking 60% physical damage. And then you can retaliate with a... Here, let me show you. We're gonna probably... Here, let's make sure we don't fat roll. That's still heavy. Erdtree's Favor. Is this going to be enough? What about Radagon's Scar Seal? I think we're going to still be too heavy. Wow, yeah, way heavy. It's because the armor is solitude. All right, whatever. But check this out. It also has... He also does amazing flips like this with this sword. All right, that didn't do what I wanted to because I accidentally killed him. But let me show you. Let me show you the guard boost. So, barely took any damage and was able to take him out in 2 extra hits. That's how strong this sword is just as a shield and a weapon. So to me, it was like, the sword is also protection. It is protective in some way. And I got the tattoo on my left arm. Because in Berserk, Guts, he's getting pinned down by a monster, and he takes a broken sword and he cuts off his left arm. And he replaces it later with a mechanical arm. So I thought, I'm replacing my arm with the sword. And then it wasn't until later that I remember that I tried to self-harm. And my left arm, I'm right-handed, so I was going to take something to cut my left arm. So I wanted to put a sword. I wanted the sword to be there, and I was thinking, like, this is my protection. This protects me, because one of the things that I'm so proud of is that I never actually hurt myself. That I never went through with it. I was going to, and I had the tools in hand, but I didn't do it, and I don't know why I didn't do it. But what I did think about, I started, and I'm doing Elden Ring theorizing, and this is only recent. I'm doing Elden Ring theorizing. I'm theorizing about prophecy. I'm theorizing about information from the future impacting the past so the future can come true. One of our members, Danko, he said, you should read the book Time Loops. I think you might enjoy it. It will help with your theorizing. And I'm reading it, and in it they talk about how it's like an trashy ESP science book. I mean, they talk about quantum physics and things like that, but it's about ESP and it's about literal prophecy in the real world. And he argues in the book, Eric Wargo, that prophecy is your own memories in reverse. It's memories of your future self having that you are having at that moment. And when we think about like Elden Ring, when we look at the items in our inventory, everything is a remembrance. We get most of our lore from remembrances, memories. This is New Game Plus, obviously. Look at how much I haven't done. I haven't even gone to Shatter the Erdtree yet I still have the memories of a God and the Lord. I still have the memories of the Dancing Lion, I have memories of the Dragon Lord. I have memories of the Elden Beast, of Horlu. I have these memories, even though this character hasn't technically experienced them yet in this world. Hey! Nope, I didn't mean to say hello. We want totality. So then I started thinking, well, if that's true, is the reason why I didn't hurt myself because I got this tattoo in the future? I look at this tattoo all the time. It's always on my arm. I can't not see it. I always look at it, and whenever I look at it, it makes me feel like strong. It makes me feel like the Black Swordsman. It makes me feel safe and protected. It makes me feel like I have the strength to hold that sword. And because I have those feelings, and I have those thoughts, and I have those memories of reading Berserk and playing through Elden Ring, if prophecy is real, if precognition is real, if memories from the future could affect the past, does that mean in this moment right now, when I look at my arm, I'm helping my younger self? I don't know if that's possible. I don't know. But it kind of makes me feel better that way. In a lot of the self-help books I've read that have to do with trauma healing, especially inner child work, they talk about the inner child as being like a light. Like it's this light from within. And the greatest light from within is the light of Miquella. His crown is a circlet of light. This eternal child who just wants a world built for compassion. His whole thing is light. So to me, Elden Ring is that story. This story of this child going back in time to try and save themselves. And when I think about it, I say that that's my story. And I just use Elden Ring as a way to represent it. That all these characters are people from my life or parts of myself, and I try to put them in the best order possible, into the golden order, so that story makes sense, to explain why am I here right now? Why does the Tarnished wake up at the Chapel of Anticipation to be found by Torrent and Melina to make a choice? And I think by telling that story, I have done for others what the Black Swordsman has done for me. In the Mimic Commentary, in the first episode 31, the original episode 31 of the Mimic Commentary, I did a similar thing. I talked about my trauma and my abuse, and people resonated with it. And then it gave me the confidence to make my video about, showing me really crying on screen and saying what happened to me. And people, not only have they shared kindness and support, but they have said that I've inspired them. One person messaged me recently. Some people message me and they say, your video inspired me to get help. Your video inspired me to keep going. Your video inspired me to confront my abuser. And when I think about the Black Swordsman, I think about how this fantasy character really inspired me. I think about Radagon. I think about Miquella. I think about Marika. I think about Guts. I think about Ned Stark and Jaime Lannister. Think about Jon Snow and Dany and Bran. How their stories inspired me to do what I do. And how my story has inspired somebody else. Thus does the copy pass into becoming the genuine article. The reason why I have this sword tattooed on my arm is because I was trying to mimic the Black Swordsman. But now, I'm more than the Black Swordsman. I'm Jack. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. You know the drill. Let's do the thing.